My second viewing review is coming up shortly. Check this out. Another popcorn container. Unbelievable. Okay, we're still getting to the Mandalorian and Grogu session. I just thought I'd stop and show you a little bit of Melbourne. This is South Bank, and the theatre we're going to is just inside over there. Such a beautiful place. I'm just showing it off a little bit more. Let's go inside. Where we are going, it's actually next to the Crown Casino, our main casino in Melbourne. It's going to be something special. We're going to the gold class, and look at that, some Disclosure Day posters there. We're almost there. So as you know, this is the second viewing for myself. I'm going to give you a review of the second viewing of the Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm shortly going in. This is the sort of premium cinema experience at Village. Yeah, so that's it. See you soon. I should add, just to let you know, this experience includes a restaurant type quality, premium gourmet type sort of food, and I've ordered the cheeseburger and the peanut chocolate sundae. That's right. Unbelievable. What a feast I'm gonna have all over myself. But you know what? I'm the force always. Okay, now we're gonna go in. Okay, so this is The Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zamet. Let's get on with the show, with the news, the views, the reviews and interviews. I'm going to give you a bit of a different sort of look today in the backdrop of Melbourne. Just seen the second viewing of Mandalorian and Grogu. Popcorn container, still another 10 out of 10. Still the movie is a 7 out of 10. It actually, second viewing is I'm absolutely definite the voice of Rhoda the Hutt is not the best choice, and the music, the techno type music, is not the best choice, but it's still enjoyable. It's a bit slower than this pacing when you see it the second time, but still very enjoyable. I think that is my second viewing for this time around, and yeah, please, subscribe to the channel, The Force Always. Like, share, whatever you like to do, and I will be coming up with the questions when I get home. Thanks. Okay, so now I am back home from a nice night, Saturday night here in Melbourne, Australia. And, look, I've got the big boy back there. That's the Mandalorian and Grogu popcorn container, can you believe? And up here is the drink container in the same theme as that. And then tonight, my friends, at the other brand, which is Village, they've got this popcorn container, as you've sort of seen me already with. But let me show you how this sort of rocks. Look at that. Still got some popcorn in there, buddy. Let me tell you, it's almost life size. And I tell you, taking this home, as I took public transport home, whoa, people really see this. Anyway, that is a 10. And as I said to you before, I've still given the movie a second viewing, 7 out of 10. I won't keep going on about that. Let's get into the questions from my last particular video, and that was the actually review, the official first review on myself of the Mandalorian and Grogu. And so anyway, Michael from Werribee South, one of our favourites, he says, first question is, I am curious, what is everyone's opinion on the current state of Star Wars and why? Well, if you want to answer him with your opinion of the current state of Star Wars and why, I'll give him my answer. Star Wars is filled with a really sort of low, the feeling is definitely low, even with myself, but I know that I love Star Wars. I know when I watched it again tonight, I still had the excitement there. It's what happens is when one person says something and another person says something, whether it's good or bad, it just transmit in that sort of way. And I just know Star Wars is a great adventure. I've actually got to add, I also think the Mandalorian and Grogu and that second viewing, I don't think it's meant to have a real big stakes about it, even though I think the whole, Grogu, Yoda, Yaddle species, planet, stuff like that would have been great to be in the film to give it a powerful impact. But I think it's sort of the calm before the storm. I think they want and know that Starfighter, that's Disney, Lucasfilm, whatever it is, they want that to be the real highlight, especially in the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. I think that's what they're really sort of waiting for the big, powerful impact from. And I think that's why the Mandalorian sort of coasted through. Anyway, let's get back into the questions. My thoughts is that, Star Wars is still exciting for me because I accept the story for what it is. But I do think that the excitement generally is a bit lower these days. Anyway, so let's get into the next question. Yes, once again, Michael from Werribee South. The Skywalker Hut dependency. The plot prominently incorporates Jabba the Hutt's family, including his son Rotta. Does this successfully expand the galactic underworld lore, or does it prove that Star Wars is still deeply restricted by its creative dependency on original trilogy nostalgia? I think both. I think personally it does rely on its nostalgia, but because really having an original story, which I am looking forward to with Starfighter, which is apparently meant to be original, it's not a sequel, it's not a prequel. It's just the story and the characters are just got to really be, connecting to us like the sequence of events with, the original trilogy. So many things went wrong in making that particular movie, the first one, A New Hope, Star Wars, Episode 4. So many things were against the odds, but then so many things came out of it great. And to really do great more than once is a pretty hard thing to do. I think it depends on nostalgia, and I don't think it's a bad thing. When people think it's fan service and it's wrong, mate, this is Star Wars. This is what, in this section of the galaxy or even across the galaxy, it's so epic and so galaxy-wide that it's hard not to know who the Skywalkers are, who Palpatine is, the famous Millennium Falcon in its Kessel Run, so it's just something that you can't escape, nostalgia, and I think rightly so, because it's a part of the DNA in Star Wars. It's not, for me, if I'm using it in a story writing idea, I'm not using it to lure fans in. I'm using it because it needs to be a part of the story at that given time in the Star Wars timeline. That's what I do. That's what I will do anyway. So the next question or comment comes from actually Hans Colo 619. I think it's Hans Colo 619. I do apologize if I'm butchering your name. It's a lovely name. This guy, from memory, is from San Diego, which is a great place. I'm going to watch it this Friday. I've heard it's a glorified TV episode for the big screen, but I don't really care. As long as it's enjoyable, I'm good. Star Wars fan for life here. Now, I get that. I think personally, it's, it is what it is. The story can't be anything more or less than what we saw. The Mandalorian and Grogu, really, you could see it as many episodes or a big episode, but the difference is between the TV version of Mandalorian and this movie is that the budget to get certain things done in this movie, you could not afford to get done in the TV series. for example, the big arena scene with, the big gladiator type sort of fight, that is just, massive budget to do. Just that section there. You could do a scaled down version, but it just wouldn't look as good as what we got it. It was fantastic. I think the story of Mandalorian is always just going to be an adventure, defeating crime lords across the galaxy, and that's what it is. And then also with the father-son relationship with Grogu, it's just, that's a part of it. It's just, accept the story for what it is. Anyway, so the next one here is Michael from Webby South. Once again, is Din Djarin's agency compromised? By fully committing to working as an operative for the New Republic, does Din Djarin lose his appealing edge as a gritty, independent Western anti-hero? Not really. I think, whoever you're working for in the galaxy in Star Wars is whoever you're working for in the galaxy of Star Wars. It just works and it doesn't work. There's Boba Fett. He's not a Mandalorian, but he looks like a Mandalorian. There's always variants of things. And to work for the New Republic, that's what this Mandalorian does. That's what it is, Anyway, so the next question from Michael from Werby South is, are the emotional core questions answered too late? A prominent point of discussion highlighted by Mashable's review is Swamp Sequence, which tackles the harsh reality that Grogu will outlive Din Djarin by centuries. Did the movie wait too long to address the existential dynamic? There's a lot of Swamp Sequence. There's also... Look, I think that's when it was said in the film that Din Djarin said Din Djarin had to accept, or I think he was the one who said it, that little Grogu's going to outlive him. Well, I think that's a sort of a bit of a warmer to what's going to happen, because Grogu somehow has to pass away. Maybe not for a while, for the sake of money-making ideas by Star Wars, but also because he's pretty young as a species. This species lives for hundreds of years. He's around 50 at this stage. Around 50. So there's plenty of life in little Grogu still. The next question is, has the novelty of Din and Grogu worn thin? Critics point out Mando's stoic silence and Grogu's visual cuteness can only carry the franchise so far. Does the film successfully progress their bond as father and son, or does it rely too heavily on jazz hands, style pandering, and merchandise bait? Look, it's sort of wearing thin, yes. But this is the story at hand with these two. It can't really move much more than what it is. I think, though, that it's not a novelty. I think it's just a storyline. And I think, but to create more of these movies, something else has to happen. And I think, a big powerful impact of a story would happen in the next one that comes after Starfighter. Because I do think that, now seeing it a second time, that I get the big idea that this is the calm before the storm. The storm is the 50th anniversary of Star Wars and Starfighter that's coming out both in next year, 2027. I think there's a big sort of thing happening with those two elements, especially the movie Starfighter. Anyway, so the next question by Michael from Werby South. Did it justify the big screen? Critics from platforms like Laney Gossip and reviewers on Reddit argue the film feels like a two mid-tier television episodes stitched together. Does the cinematic scale offer enough spectacle, or does it feel like a cash grab repackaging of what should have been season 4. It suits the big screen. This story, Mandalorian and Grogu, suits the big screen. If you told me that with the very first actual public trailer, this was after the Japan Star Wars Celebration Japan, but then we saw it online, the trailer. I was a bit concerned it looked a bit TV-like, but the actual story and the actual look of Mandalorian and Grogu really does suit the big screen. I highly suggest you watch it in the big screen. If you can, get yourself onto IMAX, because there's some IMAX quality stuff there. But it's not the most epic thing I've ever seen, but it's still worth the cinematic presentation for this particular film. That's my answer. Now, the last question from Michael. What is the coincidence of the Simpsons show and Grogu never speaking? Is this part of Star Wars logic? I think he means Maggie from the Simpsons show. And Grogu never speaking. Is this a part of Star Wars logic? Well, yes, because this is part of the story. This is so far what we've got from Grogu in his life, that he hasn't been speaking, and he's got sort of cutesy, sort of, sort of respectful type sort of mannerisms. But, it's, look, the difference between Simpsons and Star Wars with the never aging process, especially for Grogu. Grogu is still young. He matures much slower as an alien species, but his maturity in the Force is a different, pacing. It's more speedy. It's a bit more sort of time grabbing, if that's a word, of words put together. But I think but with Simpsons, I don't know, but I don't think it actually has an actual timeline. So what with the family we got in the beginning is the family we got in the end, because that's the family. There was never really known as a timeline. That's as far as I know. I mean, Simpson fans out there may let me know if there is an actual timeline, but as far as I know, there's nothing. But with Star Wars, there is a timeline, and Grogu will have to get older as the story progresses. How far the story goes into the future, blah, blah, blah. So when we're looking at Starfighter, if Grogu is still there, he would definitely be closer to 100 or on 100 years old. That's as far as I know. And he could be still alive. But as we know, it's not a sequel, it's not a prequel, it's a completely original film. So I don't think we're going to see Grogu in the first episode of Starfighter if it's going to be an episodic series. But we're waiting to see what happens. My prediction with Starfighter is I think it's a secret undercover as episode 10. That's what I think. It's just a prediction. But with an original sort of, clean, fresh slate. But yeah, so I think it is Star Wars logic so far how Grogu is progressed in his look, in his sound. It's just a slow moving maturity in actual age. Anyway, so that is the show for this time around. Subscribe to the channel, The Force Always. I've just said before, but let me say it again. I'm here 3 or 4 times a week. Big episode this time around. And until the next time, my friends, keep rocking.